editor of the Oldish, and I'm so pleased to welcome you here this week, as I do every week. Today on the Oldish, we're going to take a look back at the past week at the articles that we published on theoldish.com. We're going to, of course, take a look at stories from the Oldish around the world. And on our Let's Talk About segment, we're going to talk about saving memories for future generations. So let's get started. Let me just get rid of some of these little things here. There we go, around the world on the Oldish. This week on the Oldish, we published, as always, some really fascinating articles. More parents are moving in with adult children. Now, we've done articles before about adult children not moving away from home. This is the opposite. Aging parents moving back in with adult children. RV community joins the sharing economy. So think of this like renting a house on Airbnb or Home Alone, or sorry, not Home Alone. Home Alone is a movie. Home Away is another service where you can rent houses around the world. Think about trying out an RV before you make the decision to buy. And you need to find out too whether you can actually spend that much time in a small tin can with your immortal beloved. Anyway, take a look at that article and you'll find out a little bit about renting an RV. Brain imaging software allows more time to treat stroke. Now, of course, the time limitation on strokes has always been such a critical factor, but some new imaging software has been invented and is in the testing phase that will extend that time period by as much as 10 hours, which is extremely meaningful. Consolidating your finances, save money, time, and trees. You know, back in the day, I'm thinking back to my grandparents' time, I think, but even my parents to a certain extent, it was a thing to have money in different places. So it wasn't all under one account or one investment counselor. Nowadays, of course, so many things are consolidated. There really aren't that many independent investment houses. They're all owned and operated by larger financial investment houses. So I think the oversight is a little bit better. And not only does it make it easier for you to keep track of things and see what you do and don't want, but it makes it easier for the people you designate as your financial signers, should something happen to you, to know that everything is in the same place. Memory books can spark happy conversations for Alzheimer's patients. That's what we're going to take a look at in our Let's Talk About segment, because it's really a very interesting thing to do and kind of fun. Our top 5 articles this week. Chicken shots for knee pain in number 1. FDA approves new treatment for age spots. Stages of Alzheimer's disease, number 3 on the list this week. Consolidating your finances, save money, time, and trees was number 4. So that's a pretty new article, but it's made it into our top 5 for this week. And pickleball, fast growing sport among seniors, is in our number 5 position. I guess as summer comes on and people are looking for more things to do outdoors, in my community, pickleball runs indoors in the wintertime, but I know that in many communities, pickleball is an outdoor sport. So I'm glad that you're taking a look at all of those articles. Alrighty, let's get rid of these and talk about this week on the Oldish, saving memories for the next generation. There we go, we got rid of everything. Because I want to show you my screen in behind all of this when we get to this. There's a resource I want to show you. So several years ago, I bought a memory book for my mother, who was at that point in her life in her early 70s. And she was having the odd issue with memory problems. We talked about this memory book and she thought it was something she would work with, and I bought one for her. Sadly, she never filled it out. However, my thinking was that she remembers not only things about her parents that as a grandchild I did not remember, but she remembers her grandparents, so my great-grandparents, who I never knew. And that was just such a different generation. You know, technology and the way we live our lives has changed so much in 100 years things have advanced so quickly that I thought it would be fun to have those memories, but sadly they are lost to me anyway, but perhaps not to you. So I wanted to talk to you about how to put together these kinds of memories in a way that suits you and suits your finances and suits the time that you have available. So I did a search on bookstores, Amazon and Indigo. They have several memory books. You do rather have to sift through them because there are more memory books for babies than there are for older adults. But I did find some titles, not titles that I'm recommending, but titles that just came up in my search. I don't personally know what these books are like, but they'll give you some ideas of the kinds of books that are out there. There were lots, but I'll give you 4. The first title is My Life Story, So Far. The second title, The Story of a Lifetime, A Keepsake of Personal Memoirs. The third title was To Our Children's Children, Journal of Family Memories. And last but not least, Your Story, a guided interview through your personal and family history. So that will give you just a few ideas about the kinds of things you can search for at your local bookstore or online. For those who are interested in searching online for other kinds of resources, Pinterest. Everybody's on Pinterest, right? If you're not on Pinterest, you've got to get on Pinterest. And this is what I wanted to show you. I'm going to take you to, here we go. I'm just going to close out some overlays here so that I can see this. Questions to ask your family. Now, this is a memory thing for a 3-year-old, but journal questions, a moment in time. You know, they're asking about my best friend, my favorite food, my favorite book, a favorite place to visit. There are several kinds of things. Life history questions. This is a really good one. Interview questions for my grandparents. Let's take a look at this one. When and where were you born? Brothers and sisters? What did your house look like? Did you have your own room? What was special? The favorite thing your mother made for dinner. Look at all these questions. This is great. The love story. Where and when did you meet your spouse? Tell us about the wedding. The most important thing I need to know. Those are great legacy questions. Let's go back and take a look at this life history questions. Look at this. This is a little treasure trove. You can go through all of these and pick and choose questions that are of interest to you and your family. Your happiest moment as a teenager? Do teenagers have happy moments? I'm not sure. The hardest thing about parenting? How has faith, spirituality, or religion played a role in your life? Your proudest personal achievement? Aren't these wonderful things that you would love to know from your parents? Your bucket list. Look at that. Where'd you go to college? You know, you'll find that a lot of your grandparents didn't go to college at all. Childhood memories. Interview someone you love about life. Let's take a look at this one. You might find several things being repeated. What do you remember most about your mom? So that would be your grandmother. The 3 events that most shaped your life. Were you ever scared to be a parent? That's a really great question. When you think about your spouse, how would you describe him or her? Sirens going by outside. Somebody is in trouble, but thankfully we have great emergency responders around here. Your career. Questions about your career. What do you want your children to focus on? What have you learned about other people in life? You know, there are some really great questions there. So Pinterest is a really great resource that you can take a look at. Comments and reactions. Just in case you say anything, you know, if you want to say anything to me while these broadcasts are going on, you can write a comment and I will see it. It comes up right here for me. Anyway, back to our memories. You know, there's a soap opera that maybe some of you watch. It's called The Young and the Restless. They have a current storyline about a grandmother with Alzheimer's disease. She's one of she's the matriarch of one of the families on Young and the Restless. But anyway, part of the storyline has her granddaughter video recording interviews with the grandmother and taking her back in time to memories. Of course, many of the memories are things that suit the current storyline. And turns out Grandma had a life. Yeah, Grandma had a problem with monogamy, let's just say. Anyway, when you get these video recordings, and you can do these, by the way, with an iPhone or the current Android phones as well, they all have such amazing cameras and video recording equipment on them these days. You just set it up. Just make sure that you either choose to have this orientation or this orientation and do the same thing all the time. That's the only piece of advice I'll give you, because not all orientations will match into others. You go to try to edit them together and one looks all stretched out and one's all pinched up. So anyway, you can do this with the equipment you now have, and there are some very simple editing apps available for free online or for low cost that you can put all of this stuff together with, or you can give it all to somebody that you know who's an editor and have them do it for you. But there are lots of ways to do it. So if you are choosing to use a pre-printed book, that's great. It will probably guide you through some of the steps. If you're choosing to just wing it and go on your own, I'm going to give you some steps to kind of get you started. So sketch out the family history that you and your relatives know to this point. So what you want in your interview process is to fill in the blanks and bring out the things that you don't know. So many things will already be known about your family history. If any of you are members of a service like Ancestry.com or Ancestry.ca, there will be family trees there. You can pull information from that, names of people, the relationship to your parent or your grandparent, depending on who you're interviewing, the countries that they came from or where they emigrated from. Check with older aunts in the family, aunts, cousins, uncles, to see what memories they have. The thing is going to be to get memories triggered from the person that you're interviewing. And I know in my family's case, I have a cousin who's quite a bit older than me, and she has a lot of memories of the family that I just have no knowledge of whatsoever. So talking with her is always a treat. Checking with something like Pinterest. Use family photos to connect memories. And film. If you have some of those old films, sit down and watch them together. It's amazing what they might trigger. Use memories of school, work, weddings, funerals, church, dances. Be sure to ask about things like walking to school. Never mind the stories about walking 10 miles each way, all uphill. Walking to school with, in the rural areas in particular, with neighborhood children might spur on some memories. Animals the family had. Favorite dresses or other clothing. You know, back in the day, people didn't have the amount of clothing that we have now. So, and a lot of them were homemade too. So, you know, that might trigger some memories. What was your favorite party dress? What did you like to wear to church? What did your wedding dress look like and who made it? Those kinds of things would be great. Food that was prepared and eaten. Of course, they didn't have prepared food the way that we do now. That wasn't really a thing until the 50s. Prepared food started coming into play, but before that, everything was homemade. So talk to them about the food that they liked, maybe food that they grew. War service, of course, is going to be a big one. Now, a lot of men who served in the war don't really want to talk about their time in the war. Those are memories they seem to like to keep close to their chest. But if you can encourage them in a respectful way, it will be interesting to see what you learn about your family history that way. And of course, courtship. Everybody remembers their first kiss. Everybody remembers the first person they fell in love with, even if they were only in grade 2. The crushes they had as a child. I mean, who didn't have a crush on their teacher? So those are really fun conversations to have. So be prepared to question and record your parent or grandparent over several sessions, because it will probably be a very tiring thing. And, you know, those kinds of conversations can't go on for hours at a time. But one story will trigger another. So even though you have your questions that you want to follow, be prepared to let the story wander a bit off topic. You may find tangents that you didn't expect. So let those stories flow. Before you start, with this process. Have a sense of how you want to put it together at the other end. So a recording with digital files and images interspersed, voiceovers with images. Other family members can be brought into a conversation. Have another family member or a very close neighbor sit down and record the two of them together, your neighbor and your parent together, just having a conversation about memories. Longtime neighbors can help with conversations about raising children and overcoming community challenges. So, be prepared to bring those into the mix too. The idea is to trigger as many memories as you possibly can. So there you go. That's what we're going to talk about today in our Let's Talk About segment, making memories and making sure that they are retained and kept somehow for future generations. Because once the mind starts to go and has gotten to a certain point, you will never get those memories back again. And they're so precious. You want them. Trust me, you want them. Alrighty, around the world with the Oldish. Got some really interesting stories for you this week. Fort Walton Beach, Florida has seen an evolution in their monthly memory cafe program. They're now putting on proms, complete with father-daughter dances. The Memory Cafe program was lauded for its support and socialization, which has seen some residents taking fewer medications and experiencing better memory health. And of course, the expansion into proms gets people moving and makes them feel very special because they dress up for these proms. The Cal State Fullerton School of Engineering is experimenting with the development of tech specifically aimed at older adults. And the testers are coming from the Morningside of Fullerton retirement community. Tech devices being tested include a mind-controlled robotic arm, a self-driving wheelchair, a memory aid for Alzheimer's patients, and a mind-controlled home automation system aimed at ALS patients who have lost their ability to speak. Roger Baker's wife of 60 years was taken to hospital in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. However, Mr. Baker had no way to get to the hospital to see her, and it was making him very sad and anxious. Friends and families were unable to help out for whatever reason, so the 84-year-old man was desperate to be able to see his wife. Deputy Chief Jason Bentley of the Montoursville Borough Police Department stepped up and collected Mr. Baker from his home. He took him to the hospital, and when Mr. Baker got out of the car, the deputy chief noticed how frail the elderly gentleman was, so he went around and took him by the hand and slowly walked him up to the hospital door, where hospital staff met Mr. Baker with a wheelchair. He was able to go and sit with his sweetie then. I'm sure that was lovely. Faith in humanity was restored, at least in Pennsylvania, where a photo of Deputy Chief Jason Bentley walking Mr. Baker to the hospital went viral. We salute you, Jason Bentley. 50 seniors from Laguna Woods Village, an active lifestyle community in Orange County, California, are taking advantage of a free senior shuttle to a medical cannabis dispensary called Bud and Bloom. They are hoping that use of the medicine will relieve symptoms for sore backs, reliance on opioids, we talked about that last week, arthritis, insomnia, and lack of appetite. One woman prefers to try the properly dispensed cannabis medicine to the block of chocolate her grandson brought her, which left her unable to see straight for hours, undoubtedly dealt with her arthritis program, but she prefers the properly medically dispensed kind. 91-year-old Beatrice May Hoyt was nominated to receive the Outstanding Contribution by a Senior Citizen Award in honor of Older Americans Month in Greene County, New York. This lively 91-year-old still drives and does baking for elderly neighbors after a 30-year career as an operator for the New York City Telephone Company. Ms. Hoyt says the secret to longevity is staying active mentally and physically. Just keep using your brain, she says. Ms. Hoyt, we agree. Researchers at the University of British Columbia have completed a study of 627 adults with an average age of 72 and found that older adults are more likely to stick with a fitness program if they can do it with people of similar ages. Makes a lot of sense. I mean, who wants to be seen with skinny, uber-flexible 20-somethings in the latest spandex workout gear when you're not. I know I don't. Entrepreneur Magazine reports that the old scare tactic marketing, which has been so dominant with their approach to seniors, isn't working as well as it used to. Imagine that. You remember those ads not so long ago that scared seniors into thinking they needed a security system or falls detection systems in their homes? Well, seniors are becoming more savvy with technology, and this time it's the marketers that haven't kept pace. Marketing that recognizes the longer, healthier lives that seniors are experiencing and speaks to their increasing need to be out and about, as well as their technology skills, is said to be the way of the future. That is the truth. Okay, let me just show you where you can find all of our articles. It is at theoldish.com. We publish 6 days a week at least. You can find all of our stories there and stay up to date. You can get a membership and get those special behind the scenes items in our toolbox that we had a look at last week, medication checklists, home safety checklists, and so on. So I encourage you to do that. And I also encourage you to join us every Wednesday at 12 noon. You can also find us on our social media platforms. We are on Pinterest, of course, we talked about that. Facebook, of course, because that's where you're seeing us now. We're on Twitter, and we're on Instagram as well. And there is occasionally different content on Instagram to what you see on Facebook, so do join us. But until next Wednesday at 12 noon, I hope you all have a great week. Enjoy this beautiful summer weather. And remember, please, that it does indeed take a village to age a senior.